Hey friends, long time no talk. It's been some time since I've done a Random Rambles video, but I wanted to come on here just to kind of commemorate the fact that I've been doing Phuture Doctors for 3 years. And you know, 3 years doesn't seem like a long time, but when I took the time to kind of sit down and reflect on my science communication journey, a lot has happened. On that note, I wanted to share like 3 pillars of my science communication journey and how I essentially went from idea to reality or where I am now. Real quick, before diving into the 3 pillars of my science communication journey, I want to give a really quick background in Phuture Doctors. I started Phuture Doctors as a creative outlet when I found myself struggling in this transition phase in my chemistry PhD program. So as someone who consumes like so much YouTube, like I watch hours and hours of YouTubes every single day, I was really inspired by the science YouTubers that I religiously watched. And so I wanted to kind of start, I had this idea of starting my own YouTube channel, and I wanted to, share the research that I was doing in my academic lab, as well as share the research that my colleagues were doing. I wanted to use YouTube as a tool to kind of like, help me motivate myself and also feel like I am worthy of being in a science, in a chemistry PhD program. So I can kind of apply myself and really, take my understanding of my research to another level. I also wanted to tackle the lack of representation in the science YouTube space. So that's kind of like the niche that I found myself by starting this YouTube channel. Little did I know that this simple impulse of like starting this YouTube channel was going to completely change my life. So this brings me back to the 3 pillars. So I want to start with the first pillar of my science communication journey. Explore! Since I wasn't formally being trained in science communication, in my chemistry department, I was there to conduct scientific research and understand how to, apply the scientific method and discover the tiniest little bit of knowledge that I can add to the field of science that I was doing. I sought out opportunities outside of my chemistry department. I felt like my chemistry department was mostly grooming me to either do academia or to do and go into industry, but there wasn't really anything that was related to doing science YouTube, So I kind of looked and explored for different opportunities that can either expand my skill set or expand my knowledge. Okay, so I have an idea, a name, and a mission, or like a general sense of what I want to do. So what do I do next? There are probably like 3 pivotal opportunities that I took that really kind of shaped the development of Phuture Doctors from the beginning. The first opportunity I stumbled upon was a digital humanities opportunity on my campus, which essentially partnered me to Vanderbilt's Digital Learning Studio. And that's where I got access to film equipment, recording equipment, camera and lighting, and allowed me to kind of have the resources to make my first YouTube video. Now that I have the resources to make my first YouTube video, now it's like, okay, well, how do I actually make a first YouTube video? So super meta, but I used YouTube to teach myself how to edit a video and also animate a video. I already had some like background information or background knowledge on how to use a camera because I was like, I wanted to be a photographer when I was in high school. So I kind of already knew how to handle the camera, but to make a video and to assemble it and to create a story out of it was something that I had to teach on myself by just mimicking what I saw on YouTube and following tutorials. The second opportunity I had that helped develop Phuture Doctors was being a part of ComSciCon Atlanta. I applied for this opportunity, and that's where I actually learned about science communication as a field and as a potential career pathway, but it also revealed to me that the science YouTubers that I admired and I inspired to be were actually considered science communicators. And so that kind of like, continue to like spark my excitement to continue to go down this path, it feeling right and me feeling like I'm in the right direction, going towards something and working towards something that actually has a purpose or has a place in the scientific field, even though it's not within the traditional academia or institution route. The third opportunity that really shaped the development of Phuture Doctors was actually being a part of the Entrepreneurship Center at my university. I essentially applied for like this workshop that teach you the basis of developing a business model. So essentially like, who is my customer? What is the pain point of my customer? How am I providing them a service or a product that's going to address that pain point? And how can I make, how do I generate revenue? How do I make money by doing this service or product? Tying this knowledge into how I wanted to develop Phuture Doctors, it allowed me to kind of expand upon my initial vision of just being a YouTube channel and dreaming bigger and thinking bigger and constantly allowing me to kind of reiterate and re-ask myself or rethink of like how can I continue to develop Future Doctors? What does it look like? The science communication that I'm doing, who is it reaching, who is it for? It all kind of ties in together. And so when I'm exploring for things, like I need to look outside of like the initial bubble that I am, because those are the things that allowed me to learn something that I'm not specifically being taught within my department, learn something that's giving me hands-on training, I guess, in a field that I'm not necessarily getting training for, and allow me to continue to explore what it means to do science communication, to be a science communicator, and potentially having science communication as my future career. After explore comes the second pillar. Experiment. So with experimenting, I have science communication, entrepreneurship, and just basic video editing skills and knowledge that I acquired through my exploring phase. And so now is trying to figure out what I envision, or how can I actually make my vision of Future Doctors come into life. So I have to experiment with the different types of styles and formats that I can do. So one way that I experimented again was with my starting the YouTube channel. So I don't have any background knowledge on making science videos. So the way that I experimented was essentially just mimicking the science YouTubers that I religiously watch. So is it going to be an explainer video? Is it going to be a vlog style? Am I going to be demonstrating some type of experiment? So those are the types of questions that I was asking, or ways that I was trying to, piece together what will be my format, what would be Future Doctors be known for. Another way that I experimented was with social media. Instead of just using my social media just to promote the YouTube, like how else can I use social media to develop these skills that I've been learning through my exploring phase? So on social media, there was already a small amount of science communicators that were also grad students or just undergraduate students who were sharing their science. And so I kind of mimicked them, not essentially like verbatim, but I took inspiration from the type of content that they were posting and started to do the same with Future Doctors. So if you look back at the beginning of my Instagram feed, you will see that I started sharing the work of my colleagues and talking about the research. So like every single day from like Monday to Thursday was a different aspect of the research that I will post using like an infographic that I made through like a clip art app on my phone. So after posting Monday through Thursday about their science, on Friday, I'll reveal who that scientist was, and I'll direct them to the website that I ended up launching, which was on Squarespace. I use Squarespace because it was easy and just a template to use. And so there I'll feature their profiles and their academic journey, how they got into their science. And I did that for a good amount of time. And I ended up featuring like 16 of my friends, which was awesome. Was able to continue to build on my science communication skills. I was also learning how to interview, because I'll take my friends out for lunch, talk to them for like an hour over lunch to understand their research and about themselves, and how to take their story and their knowledge or whatever and turn it into a digestible Instagram post. But the more I did that, I was like, okay, it's not my favorite, but I'm still putting myself out there and continuing to experiment with what is it that I wanted to do in this science communication space. So while I'm still experimenting, I'm still exploring. So I stumbled upon another opportunity where there was a science video competition for the Material Research Society's international conference. So they had strict guidelines of producing a 2-minute video that had to hit, like it had to have music, had to have animation, it had to be explainer video, and also I had to communicate the importance of material science research. So strict guidelines, strict expectations, and there's a cash prize. And so this allowed me to not only experiment with, meeting these expectations with the skills that I kind of been teaching myself or have learned along the way. I tried something new. I continued to experiment, and I won the competition, which is really awesome to think about. I ended up winning like $1,000 from doing the video, and that kind of just, again, boosted my confidence. And it's like, okay, I'm doing something that I'm pretty decent at, like I'm getting better at it. I'm continuing to explore science communication, and it's continuing to make me feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. There were 2 other pivotal opportunities that I was lucky to be a part of that allowed me to continue to explore and experiment with the type of work, science communication work, that I wanted to do for Future Doctors. One of them was being a part of the Jackson Wild Media Lab Fellowship, super prestigious. A lot of people applied for it, and I was lucky to be one of the 17 fellows to be a part of this, but it was a 10-day intense workshop on learning how to get formal training in science filmmaking by 2 PhD biology students who later ended up producing or starting their own production lab or production, company. So I got training from them for 10 days, got mentored about science communication from those that are actually in the documentary and science filmmaking space. And it really opened my eyes to like the world of filmmaking and documentary, and again, expanded my worldview of like, I guess not worldview, but my view of like where does science communication live, and how can I take these skills that I'm learning to continue to develop Phuture Doctors? So I'm like forever grateful for that opportunity. I continue to, reap benefits from it. The way I got into that Media Lab fellowship was because of my idea for Phuture Doctors. So again, like further validation, and it was just amazing. And I, 10 out of 10, forever grateful for that opportunity. And because of all of the work that I've been doing, and all of the, I'm continuing to hone in on my science filmmaking, science communication skills, it landed me a spot in the World Congress of Science and Factual Producers International Conference or meeting, and essentially pitch Phuture Doctors, or what a future documentary or video series will look like to companies, and get to attend this conference for free because of the mission that I have been continuing to work for, and continuing to put myself out there. And it's really, I always have like this imposter syndrome that like I'm not good enough, or like I'm just kind of mediocre, or like I don't know what I'm doing. I've just been kind of like leading myself blindly through all these things. But as I continue to push myself out there, doors continue to open, and it's just further validation that like I'm supposed to be in this space, and I feel good about the life changes that has happened. Finally, the last pillar. So I have the opportunity to explore, look for different opportunities to expand my knowledge and my skill set. I use that to experiment. I continued to test out different styles and formats of what I believe Phuture Doctors could be. So I went from this idea of starting Phuture Doctors as a YouTube channel to filming my first 2 Phuture Doctors videos, winning a science video competition, to then learning how to produce documentaries and going to a science documentary conference. And so I've thoroughly have been able to evolve my skill set and hone in on this craft that I'm still learning and still refining. But just a quick reminder, like while I'm doing all of this, I'm still a PhD student in chemistry. I still have these responsibilities that I have to do. And that's where I have to be honest, I did a really poor job. I dedicated so much of my time exploring and experimenting that I forgot my main responsibility, which is to do my research. And that came, it kind of backfired. Recall that I started Phuture Doctors as a creative outlet. I didn't have the guidance that I needed. I was also, like looking back, I feel like I wasn't mature enough to start my PhD program. And so when I wasn't really meeting these expectations, I turned my attention to doing Phuture Doctors, which resulted in me having to switch labs and, not really doing well in my lab work or meeting these expectations or passing these exams that I ended up failing out of my chemistry program. I was met with the option to either try again or to just leave with my master's. But the thing is, like, to be completely frank, like if I were to try again doing my chemistry PhD, like because I've already been slacking behind, and I'm already like 4 years into my chemistry program. The thought of like trying again in a program that I was already unhappy in, to then be under scrutiny and like under a magnifying glass to try to continue to like get me to finish my PhD just like sounded miserable. But on the other hand, like the privileges that I've gained being a graduate student, like I didn't want to give it up, to be frank. Like I have access to opportunities that I would have never had access to if I wasn't a graduate student, if I wasn't in higher education, and I didn't want to lose that. So like I wasn't down for either options. The downside is that I failed out of my chemistry program, but because I dedicated a lot of time to developing Phuture Doctors and being persistent with this idea and wanting to see this idea grow, I was able to turn this into my PhD dissertation, which blows my mind. Like talking again about like privileges, because I was a graduate student in a university that has these opportunities, I was able to transfer over to an interdisciplinary program and continue to do, and I had work to show for when I was looking for a new advisor of like, this is what I've done, this is what I'm planning to do, and I have a goal and I have a vision that I want to achieve. Like, are you willing to be on my team to help me get there? And it's amazing of like, you know, just looking back at this journey of just having people believe in me, have people look out for me, have people redirect me to opportunities that I don't think I would have had access to if I wasn't friends with them or learning them or just and exploring what it means to do Phuture Doctors. And I'm forever grateful for that. And it just, you know, blows my mind that now I am my final year of doing my dissertation or final year of doing my PhD. I've done so much in such a little time, but I am proud. I'm really proud of the work that I'm doing. Oh, I feel like I'm crying now. I didn't think I was gonna get emotional, but I'm really proud of like all the shit that I went through. And I'm just really grateful for everyone that's been with me along the way. But yeah, thank you for being here and for being with me on this journey, and really excited to see what goes next. But anyways, if I have learned anything from my lesson, I'm literally just going wherever the wind blows and just excited for what lays ahead. I don't know what it is exactly that I'm gonna do. Right now, it's just to finish earning my PhD in science communication, and we'll go from there. But again, thank you for being here. I feel ridiculous now, but all right. But yeah, #blessed. I'll catch you guys later in the next video. Thanks for being here, fam. Bye. Lito. Hi, Lito. You're such a good boy. You're such a good boy.